Hey guys, it's Leslie here. How are you doing? We're trying something new. We're trying to broadcast from my Facebook page, which I've been talking about on my personal page for quite some time. So if you're seeing this in a sharing, because I'm going to share it afterwards, make sure you like the Facebook page for Your Biz Rules. Easy short link of yourbizrules.com/FB for Facebook. And just like the page, and then you should start to see our notifications. So that's something new that we're testing and we're trying. Today's show's on perfectionism. So I thought it was really interesting that today's show is on perfectionism, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to go live from my Facebook page from the notification that I set up, because it didn't occur to me that it might be a little different. To learn a lot of things. Actually, that's not even why today's topic is about the double-edged sword of perfectionism. You know, I don't know if you've heard the phrase "a death by 1,000 cuts." I think in some ways that's how things happen. While definitely catastrophic things happen all the time, and can negatively impact your business and your life. I think perfection is like the death of 1,000 cuts. And I personally was laughing at this. I was sitting here thinking about this. These are the things I think of when I'm in my car and I'm driving from appointment to appointment, or getting ready for you guys with coaching from the Carpool. Is I have these conversations in my head about what I'm going to talk about. And because I work with so many women entrepreneurs, I'm always asked, what's the difference between men and women? What's the difference between working with men and women? And a lot of times it's how we internalize, or the internalization of things that happen in a business. And I believe women struggle with perfectionism a lot more than men do. Not that I'm sure there isn't some gentleman that has perfectionist issues, but I think women struggle with it a lot more. And if I had to qualify like what I see as a difference, I see that sometimes as men in business, we can definitely suffer from paralysis of analysis. But I think that's slightly different than struggling with perfection. And there's an element of design that I learned, and it was when we looked for perfect and when we tried to create perfect in a room, or if we're looking for that perfect match, that perfect fill in the blank. It's that quest of perfection that actually resulted in a less beautiful composition. And anytime we ran into situations where we were trying to get that perfect match type thing, and it was a struggle, I would go my next, because I would always want the perfection, but that next component I would just deviate, like I'd do a 180. I'm like, okay, if the perfection's not working here, let me 180 it and come up with something completely different. And it was usually then that beautiful was created. And I think a business is that way too, that nothing will ever be perfect in your business. You will have perfect moments. You'll have great joys, but nothing's ever really perfect in business. And part of that is that business changes way fast. You change, you develop, you learn more, your clients shift. Everything, there's nothing static about business, or it shouldn't be. In my book, First Than That, I was talking about if your business isn't growing, it's dying. It's not, a state it's not a lack of motion, right? Perfection, I think, is this attainment, is this like you've crossed the finish line, you can now say it's perfect. The thing is it's never perfect because it's never done. And how does this come up? Well, I'm laughing because God gives me such great moments to check in on things and relearn some things and give myself grace. Because it's really easy for me not to expect you to be perfect, but it's really hard sometimes for me not to be perfect. And the couple of conversations that are going on, I was talking with somebody last week, and they were sharing with me the feeling of needing to be perfect. And I said, I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be honest. I need you to be real, but I don't need you to be perfect. And I was like, okay, that's generous of me. And then I put my book, like the sneak peek of my book is out in my Facebook sneak peek community for First This Then That. And I did that yesterday afternoon at like, I don't know, 2 or 3. And I just did it. I was hesitant and I was like, nope, just going to do it. Boom, get it out there. And I guess that's a skill, and I'm going to talk about that too, because right before this I saw a video and I was like, how apropos. And I gotta tell you, terrified. I don't get terrified too often, guys, and this is one big heck of a scary for me, is I put that out, and I know it's a good book, no doubt about that. What's scary to me is now everybody else is going to read it, and they're going to make judgments on it. And it's going to be good for some, and it's not going to be great for others, and that's okay. I'm really okay with like the logical side of that. The emotional side of it had me want to hurl or crawl into a corner and cry. And I actually called my college roommate. Actually, we've been doing Marco Polo a lot lately. I don't know if you use Marco Polo, but we've been Marco Poloing a lot, and I Marco Poloed her, and I was like, oh my God, I put it out there. I did it, and now I'm petrified. I was like, please just read it and let me know that you, who isn't even a business owner, think it's good. I was like, I just want somebody to think it's good. And that's really, I'm gonna get teary on you right now, but that's really a quest for perfection, right? It's I've put myself out there like I've never put myself out there. Like, really lifted the veil to who I am in writing this book. I wasn't expecting this kind of metamorphosis to happen. And it's about being perfect. And I'm like, isn't that interesting for what you had planned on talking about? Is the quest to perfection. And so I think in some ways the quest for perfection in business is actually one of the biggest weaknesses. And I am a card-carrying member of Perfectionist Anonymous, right? Obviously, if I still struggle with that just in this moment of sharing, just very small community of people that know me for the most part, people that know me, people that, I've shared meals with and shared time with, and I'm worried about that. I'm like, oh, dude, what a great moment to learn. But it didn't let it stop me. And here's where perfection kind of comes in. Perfection is really does start to be a death of 1,000 cuts. And it all depends on what you do with it. Hey, Shirley, thanks for coming in. We're talking about perfection, because God knows I'm not perfect. So when you're so consumed with trying to achieve that perfection in your business, or the perfection of perception, it can stop you from doing a lot of things, and had a moment where did some headshots last week, and my photographer's awesome, love her, but what came out wasn't where we were trying to go. And that happens sometimes in creative products and creative things. And I know this. And I still was like, I didn't show up well. I didn't dress the part. I didn't do something. And part of that is because I've been struggling with perfection. And also the concept of perfection. Like, I gotta tell you, if you could see me right now, I have my shoes off. My foot is like resting on the upper portion of my door over here. Right? I'm more of a flip-flops, no makeup, hair back in a ponytail, casual gal. I really am. I'm minimalistic. I'm simple as the day is long. And so when I have to put makeup on here, because obviously it makes a difference on how you see me and how you perceive me. And I know that part. But there's also like, am I playing into the perfection? Like, am I worried about perfection? And I know some days I come on here with no makeup and I really should. Some days I probably are not looking my best because I've been knee deep in details and cranking stuff out, and that's just the reality. And there's that question I go on in my brain about what am I representing? Because it is part of my business. So it's that double-edged sword, right, of perfection of really, I want to be real with you guys. That's not why I do what I do. But I also struggle with presenting the brand in a consistent enough way in alignment with the values that I'm trying to convey. And so when I have moments where there's a disconnect, I also have to struggle with the thought of, well, that's not really me. Like, I some days I'm like, it's not really me to wear makeup. Like, who am I kidding? I go out with my husband on a date night and I glam it up. I layer it on, right? Just along with everyone. So that's not the truth, right? It's like, what am I struggling with? I don't know. It's really interesting. I do feel like I should say, do you want to do good work? Yes. Should you do reliable work? Yes. Should you strive for good? I'm like, yes. Should you strive for great? Yes. I'll go into the good is the enemy of great. But some days it's good enough too. And as maybe perfectionist, what I've realized is that a lot of times my 80% is worth a lot of people's 100%. And so we can be hypercritical with ourselves, and then outside looking in, they're like, oh my gosh, you blew it out of the park. Are you kidding me? And you're like, oh, I only did it like 60%. Like, we have a very skewed, and sometimes I think as women we do this a little bit more, have a skewing of what good is and what great is. So I love, let me see if I remember the name correctly. So I just saw a video on Facebook posted by my friend Rose Colasari, and it was a video of this woman, Mel Robbins, and she was talking about a really tough time in her life when she was unemployed, bankrupt, behind in debt 6 ways come Sunday, and she was hitting snooze on her alarm. And she, said she watched a TV show that had a rocket, and she's like, that's it, I need to launch into my day, launch into my life. And so the next morning, alarm goes off, and she does the countdown, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and she gets out of bed. And she started noticing, she started doing this with the other things in life, just to count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, countdown. And I was like, oh, how perfect is that? Because when I was deciding whether or not to put my book out on my sneak preview page, I could have waited. I could have read it one more time. I could have really looked. In fact, as I was thinking about putting it, I saw a typo, right? I could have fixed that typo first and then gone out with it, but I didn't. I just did it. And I was scared, and I just did it. And I noticed, if you think about Mel Robbins' example of the counting down, you're just doing it, right? I think that's one, and she goes on to say, Mel Robbins said in this little clip, about how just doing it actually gets it doesn't give the brain a chance to say the million reasons why you shouldn't, or why you should do that one more edit, or why you should fix such and such. I was like, nope, good enough. It's going, it's moving. That's the difference of how you deal with perfection. I think as a human and as women entrepreneurs, perfect is going to be one of those things we fight. It's hard to undo generations of society training in one generation. We can only shift how we respond to it, And so if you shift how you respond to perfectionism and don't let it weigh you down, don't let it ruin the day. I have spent a lot of my day today on positive mindset build, and going back and looking at, okay, what is that really about? What am I really trying to do? Is this, am I on course? Yes, I'm on course. Okay, let me go lift myself up, and finding ways to do that. Not that I'm down, but I've cried a couple times today. I've got to be honest, right? But how do I pick myself out? How do I get moving past this need, this fear of being found less than perfect? Because I am less than perfect. I I know that, but still, do you want the world to know that? And so I've spent my day really pouring back in and recognizing that I have given out a lot in the last month, 2 months in the life. And so that's probably reasons why I'm in a dip when it comes to that, and why I'm responding so emotionally when it comes to this. So I've just been pouring back in, but I've also not stopped. It's that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's the quick action at moving in, and just, it could be better, but if this is the worst, this ain't bad. Let's go. Let's go. Let's keep on moving. So most people know Napoleon Hill. They know Think and Grow Rich. Actually, I had one of my clients talking about Think and Grow Rich this morning. There's a second book he wrote called Outwitting the Devil. It's not as politically correct as Think and Grow Rich, but it's interesting because he talks about perfectionism and drifting, and that a drifter, the ones that are just waiting and waiting to be perfect and do it, you don't get any motion. You're just drifting. If you think about the ocean, if you know about a wave is nothing more than really a cyclical kind of thing. You feel like you're moving, but you're really just going around in a point. You're drifting. Well, the way through perfectionism is action. And it's in that determinate person that really driving forward even through the procrastination. And there's a quote that I use sometimes in my time management talk. And it talks about the note, the noting of somebody that's going somewhere, that has a defined ideal, that is taking action, taking steps towards whatever that ideal is, and how markedly different the universe sees them and admires them. Whereas a drifter is always finding a reason that now's not a good time, that it's not perfect enough, that they need to wait and see, that they need to do, and where you find them in a year is exactly where they are. And that's always struck to me. And it's really, to me, it's a quest of perfection. And how are you using that to your advantage, and how are you allowing it to really take advantage of you? If you're in that drifter, if you let it hold you back, if you don't take the action that you need to take in your business. So perfection, that's why it's an addiction. That's why I say I'm a card-carrying member of Perfectionist Anonymous, because it's something I don't know that we ever really truly get away from. We just know how to manage it better. So be interesting to see what you think about these things. See what do you take action in spite of perfection? Or do you allow perfection to keep you from doing what you need to do in your business? I'd love to hear and see which side of the fence you're on, and just be sure to comment below. So this has been Coaching from the Carpool. Leslie Hasser, our first official episode on the Facebook fan page after, 75 episodes. So be sure to subscribe, I think it is, and then check us out each and every afternoon, 2:30-ish, most days here in the Carpool. Until then, we'll be talking with you soon. It's been Leslie Hasser with your Biz Rules Business Coaching, and we're coaching from the Carpool.